I was in middle school, and I didn't really want to go, but I was in middle school, so I didn't really have a choice. And I was told I'd be attending a wedding. Now, that's the last place I wanted to spend a Saturday, but I didn't really have an option. I was going. And so my family drugged me to the wedding, and I sat through it, and it was one of those ceremonies that lasted for what felt like forever. I don't know how long it was, but it was too long. And this was in the ages where you had a little pencil and little offering envelope in the pew in front of you, and so I'd grab that and try to play tic-tac-toe with my sister, whoever was next to me. And my sister and I played a couple rounds of tic-tac-toe, and then my mom's like, "You need to stop," and we're like, "Or what?" And she's like, "Stop," and it's just whatever. And so we did, and I just sat there and suffered for a while. And as the wedding finally was over, we then had to go to the reception, which is at a country club. I know some people, they RSVP for weddings, and they have no intention of going to the ceremony. They just show up at the reception. That was not on our family's agenda for the day. So there we were, all dressed up in my suit, and my sister in a dress, my parents dressed up nicely, and we went to a really prestigious country club. And as we walked in, the entire mood changed. At least mine did, because I saw the carving station. And they had, for the first time in my life, what I would experience, filet mignon. And this was the best steak I'd ever sank my teeth into. I mean, you could cut it like it was butter. Your knife or your fork just went through. It was phenomenal. It was tender, and it was juicy, and it was delicious. And because it was a carving station, I found out, you could go up for more. And so I took you had to get a new plate, but I took myself, and I got a plate, and got another one, and I was in middle school, so I could put it down. And that is what I did. I went back up, and the person at the carving station's like, "You want me to put more than one on your plate?" And I'm like, "Oh, do I ever? Do I ever?" Like, put them on there. This is great. And it was fantastic. It was fantastic. Now, I had to endure a painful wedding in order to get to that. But once I did, the benefit was incredible. Last week, we started talking about our mission and why we do what we do. And leave it to me to start a vision series and tell everybody, hey, thank you for being part of Lakeside, and we love what God is doing, and we want you to prayerfully consider in the month of December going over and above your regular giving to Lakeside to help us expand this area, put in new chairs so that we can meet the need, and a week later have a snowstorm and just be like, "I think we're doing all right, Brian." So, this might be our worst December offering ever, but I would please ask you not to base it on today, but to see the greater need. But we talked about why everything we do here at Lakeside is driven by our mission of helping people move one step closer to Jesus and reaching those far from Him. It drives everything that we do. It drives every decision that we make. And everything that we do, we evaluate and we check it out through that lens of, has it helped us fulfill our mission of helping people move one step closer to Jesus and reaching those far from Him. Now, this morning, we're going to look at some of our values that arrive out of that overarching mission. And so to do that, we're going to look at an encounter that Jesus had with His disciples after the Last Supper. If you have your phones or your tablets, I'd invite you to follow along with us this morning in the Bible app. It's a free resource that you can find in whatever app store you utilize on your device. Once you have the Bible app installed on your device, there's a feature that we use together each and every week. It's called the Events feature. You can either enable your locations or write in Lakeside, Algoma, will pop up, and you can follow along with us that way. If you have a traditional Bible with you this morning, we're looking at a portion of the Gospel of John. John is the fourth book of the New Testament. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. John chapter 13, we're going to jump in verse 31 in just a minute. And if you're joining us via the stream this morning, thanks so much for joining us. My name is Brian. I'm part of the team here at Lakeside. The verses will be available for you on the screen below. Now, to give you some context of what's happened up to this point in John chapter 13, where we're going to dive in, the Last Supper has just occurred, where Jesus let everyone know that Judas would betray him, and Judas leaves, and now there are 11 remaining disciples. And we jump in there, John chapter 13, beginning in verses 31 and 32, we read these words. When he had gone out, Jesus said, "Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself and glorify him at once." Now, I want to be very clear. I am not likening my suffering of having to go to a really boring wedding in order to get filet mignon. I am not likening my suffering and my glory to the suffering and glory that Jesus would experience by going to the cross. I want to be very clear. I'm not creating myself to be a martyr because I had to go to a wedding or anything like that. I am just painting a picture that all of us at some level of our lives, and if you're in middle school, you're like, how about every day of my life? You recognize there are things you don't want to do that you have to do, and hopefully what you recognize is at the end of those things, sometimes there is a great benefit. That is true of what Jesus was telling his disciples here. Jesus here knows that hours later, he would be crucified. In the greatest picture and moment of grace that has ever transpired and will ever transpire. God himself came to this world to pay the penalty for my sin. He was the sacrifice offering me salvation. He went to pay a penalty and a debt that I simply could not pay because the standard of God is perfection and I don't measure up. And so he went in my place. And as Christ was crucified on that cross, his divine nature had placed upon himself all of the horror and all the wickedness, not just my sin, but all the horror and all the wickedness of your sin and the sins of everyone who had ever lived or will ever live, placed upon Christ on that cross. And yet Jesus here, hours before that would transpire, knowing the horror that would occur, is looking beyond it. He's looking beyond it to see what his sacrifice will ultimately offer and provide to people who will accept it. And God would be glorified in that, and that we could be recipients and experience the grace that Christ offers us. So the cross is the greatest picture of grace that there has ever been and there will ever be. And that is what motivates us and one of the driving factors of what we do here at Lakeside. As I said, last week we talked about our mission, help people move one step closer to Jesus and reaching those far from him. Today we're going to start talking about our values. One of our values is this. We're going to err on the side of grace. We're going to err on the side of grace. We recognize that every single one of us is a broken and a flawed person. I'm broken, I'm flawed. Every person on the team's broken and flawed. Every person in leadership at Lakeside's broken and flawed. Every person that you encounter at Lakeside on some level is a broken and flawed individual. You know, sometimes people are like, hey, I'm looking for the perfect church. Well, we're not it. Because we're a collection of broken and flawed people, and that's how it's always going to be. And what we realize because of that is sometimes we're going to get it wrong. We don't want to. We're not trying to get it wrong, but sometimes we're going to get it wrong. Sometimes we're going to make a decision and look back and be like, well, that was dumb. Shouldn't have done that. If we had all the information we have now, we would have done differently. But we didn't have all the information then. So our bad. Let's fix it. Hopefully we can fix it. Like, we're going to make some dumb decisions. We're going to make some bad calls. It's just part of the fact that we're imperfect people. We try not to, but we're flawed. We're human. None of us are going to be perfect. So we say, hey, we recognize every single one of us. Every single one of us is part of the pastoral team. Every single one of us is part of the leadership team. Every single one of us is going to make some mistakes along the way. But one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to be really, really intentional and really, really strategic to make sure that if we make a mistake, the mistake is that we're too gracious rather than not gracious enough. Why? Because when you look at the life and the teaching and the ministry of Jesus, and you see the people that he had the most problem with, it was the Pharisees. It was legalistic people. It were people that thought they had it all together with God in their minds. But they missed the main point entirely. And so what we say is, we're going to make mistakes. We're not going to get it all perfect, but we're going to try really, really hard, knowing that we're not going to get it perfect, to make sure that if we make a mistake, our mistake is that we're overly gracious to people and not gracious at all. Now, some people hear that, and they think, oh, well, that must mean that Lakeside doesn't want to offend anybody, and they're going to shy away from the truth, and nothing could be further from that. We go on to verse 33, little children. This is Jesus speaking to his disciples. Little children, remember, they're grown men. Yet a little while I am with you. You will seek me, and just as I said to the Jews, so now I also say to you, where I am going, you cannot come. Jesus lets his disciples know, what I'm about to do, you can't do for yourself. You need to rely on me. What I am going to do is impossible for you to do. Even if you wanted, you can't. You can't do this. Bless you. Now, some misunderstand. And some misunderstand grace as a license. They understand grace as a license to live like hell. But Jesus made it clear that his followers will seek him. You know, it's kind of the mentality of, well, you know, I asked Christ to come in my life so I can do whatever I want. God's gracious. He's forgiving. I can live like hell, and he'll forgive me. And I want you to know this isn't anything new. This isn't just like, 10 years ago this started to be a thing. The book of Romans deals with this head on. Romans chapter 6, verses 1 and 2. What shall we say then? Are we to continue in sin that grace may abound? By no means. How can we who died to sin still live in it? Following after Jesus is not a license that we can do whatever we want with the mentality of, what are you going to do to me? I'll follow after Jesus, so he's going to forgive me. He's going to offer me grace. If that's the mentality, then you don't understand what it means to truly follow after Jesus. Now, some misunderstand grace on the other end of the spectrum. Unless they think to themselves, well, what Jesus did is an ingredient, and the main ingredient to my salvation. But I got to be dependent on what I can control. And so I've got to do enough good things. I've got to give enough money. I got to do what I can do. I can't just rely on somebody else. And this isn't anything new. This isn't just some Midwest mentality. Ephesians 2, 8, and 9. For by grace you've been saved through faith. And this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast. Now, what grace is it's not a license to go live like hell, and it's not an invitation for us to go have to try to do things to earn something that's already been provided for us. Jesus said, look, I've given this message to the Jews. John 8:21. He told them this exact thing. You can't do this on your own. You need to find salvation in me. And Jesus offers it to any and all who would call on his name and accept the sacrifice of the cross on our behalf when he laid down his life and he was crucified, rose again 3 days later. You can't earn this. You can't deserve it. You can't do something for it. It's a gift that's been accomplished by Christ and Christ alone, and he offers you, if you'll accept him, forgiveness and grace. But that doesn't give you a license to just go do whatever you want. We're so forever shaped and altered by what Christ has accomplished and offered to us on our behalf that it changes us at our core. And then Jesus says this in verse 34. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You also are to love one another. This is a new command, which means it isn't only something to do when it's convenient. It isn't only something to do when you feel like it. It isn't only something to do with people that are easy to love. No, Jesus says this is the command. You need to love one another. In what manner do you need to love one another? Well, in the same manner, Jesus says, that I have loved you. You also must love one another. So, how do we do that? How do we do that? Well, we believe one of the best ways that we can go about doing this is within community. Because everyone thrives and everyone is better when they're part of something bigger than themselves. And God has called us all to not go through life isolated and alone, but to be part of something that is bigger than ourselves. Now, we recognize that there are differences, and God has designed people differently, and it's one of the beautiful things that God has accomplished, is he hasn't designed everybody to look the same and act the same, to have the same passions and the same desires. And we see the beauty in God's vast design. And some people are very introverted. And they're like, hey, I need a connection or two, and then I'm good. And some people are extroverts, and they're like, oh, one or two? I need that an hour, and I need to have as many people in my life and in my sphere as I can possibly have. Now, here's the reality. We know no matter where you are in that spectrum, whether you're the most introverted of introverts, whether you're the most extroverted of extroverts, no matter where you are, at some point, there's only so much capacity that you have. Which means that we're at the point as Lakeside that we cannot be everything to everyone because some people are just full. And that doesn't mean that they're wrong. It's just the reality of their life. Their connections are full. But what we strive to do is we strive to be a community that comes alongside people so that every single person recognizes that they are not isolated and they're not going through life alone. One of the ways we try to do that is creating events for people to come and be part of, to get to know one another, to enjoy together. Some of our events are specific. We have men's events. We have women's events. We have senior events. We have kids' events. We have student events. Some of them are for everybody. We do events that are for everyone. What's the goal and what's the purpose of the event? To have a time where people can connect. To have a time where people can understand, I'm not isolated. People do care about me. I'm not going through life alone. And I don't have to go through life on a journey all by myself. And one of our promises to you is that we're here to provide that community, but we're never going to try to force it down your throat. And we're never going to be the people of, oh, well, you've got to do this, and we're going to put you in awkward conversations, whether you want to be in them or not. So we're going to split you up into groups, and you're going to have to go around and tell people that you just met your deepest, darkest secrets and what shame and regret you carry to this day and all the things that haunt you. We're not going to do that to people. If you need an environment to process through those things, we hope you find your community here, people that you trust and that you love and that you can do that with. But our promise to you is we're going to try to do this, but not be awkward about it. Because we've all been in those awkward environments, and it's just like, this is not for me. This is just a little creepy. And forced therapy never worked for anybody anyhow. So we want to have authenticity, but we're never going to go about forcing it and trying to get people to do something they aren't comfortable doing. Next is a prayer list. We have a team of people every week that said, we will pray over the requests that come in on the seat in front of you. There's a card that you can fill out, and you can give us as much or as little information as you want. But when you're facing something, to know that there's a team of people who have all said, hey, I vow I'm not going to turn this into gossip hour. I'm not going to share this with anybody. Like I'm not going to ask crazy follow-up questions. I'm just committed to praying for this need and this request. And if you want to be part of that and you're willing to abide by those standards, send us an email, office@lakeside-church, and we'll get you added to the prayer team. It's a tangible way that people can understand that they're bigger than just themselves in this world, going through life alone. But there are people who will actively pray through concerns right alongside of you. What other ways that we express love? Well, by using the gifts and abilities God's given us in all different manners, in all different forms. And I just want to shout out a couple, and I don't have time to list everybody, so please don't feel slighted. I just want to highlight a couple things. Lee Miskovich. Many of you know Lee. His entire Thanksgiving weekend has been altered. Because last year when we were running into the issues that we had in our parking lot, he came to me, he's like, hey, this thing's an ice rink. And I'm like, I know. And he's like, I want to be part of the solution. He's like, so I'll take over the plowing. It's like, I'll save the church some money and I'll handle it. And I'm like, thank you so much. Which is awesome. It's great. We ordered a pallet of salt. Yesterday, I've been fighting a cold, was watching the Buckeye game, and that was a thing of beauty. But he sent me a text, and I missed it because I'm out of it, and I'm watching the Buckeyes. And then he called me, and I saw that I missed a call, and I called him up. He's like, hey, where's that salt? And I'm like, well, buddy, it's a pallet. So it was supposed to be delivered on Friday, and if it's not there, we wouldn't. You'd know if it was there. He's like, oh, okay, I don't see it. And in the time that I'd missed his calls, he'd already gone to the store and bought bags of salt to get everything ready so that we could have a parking lot that was cleared and in the shape that it's in today. Just using what he's able to do to serve God and serve people. Denton Brown this morning got up and on the road before the plows were out and drove down here to shovel the sidewalk so that the people who braved it to be here for the first service would have a safe way to get into the church. We're still looking for more people who'd be willing to do that on Sunday mornings, and if enough people sign up, it would be like once, maybe twice this winter, but just that are willing to come and arrive at Lakeside early Sunday morning and shovel the sidewalks so that people can come into the building safely. And if you're willing to do that, send us an email, office@lakeside-church.com. We have a team of people that show up, that run production for services every week. We have people on cameras in the sound booth that run Pro Presenter. Week in and week out, we have Dan running the stream. And this morning, Dan got the stream set up, and then he's like, I don't feel well. I got to get out of here. And so we're trying to get everything going to run the stream, but week in and week out. We believe very strongly that every person that comes to Lakeside matters to God, and so we want to serve them well. So week in and week out, we have incredible volunteers down the hall who provide environments that are safe and provide environments that teach kids about Jesus on an age-appropriate level where kids can understand the lessons and understand the themes that are being developed and take rich spiritual truths and break them down to an age-appropriate level. And we are so blessed by the people that we have served in that capacity. And it never has been our approach, and it never will be our approach to come to people and be like, hey, got a lot of kids coming. And you need to go be a body down there. You need to go get down the hallway. You need to serve. What's wrong with you? Why aren't you serving? Don't you care about the kids? No, we recognize some people, they don't like kids. Now, some people don't feel they can't say that. They tiptoe around it. I don't know. They're just scared to say, yeah, you know what? Kids really aren't my thing. And normally they're all right with their own, but beyond that, they're just like, yeah, this isn't great. And I want you to know, if that's you, first of all, that's okay. And second of all, the last place we want you is anywhere near the rooms down the hall. We don't want you down there. Why? Because we want to find where you're passionate. And for you to use the gifts and the abilities and the passions that God has given to you and to serve Him in those capacities. And when you do, not only does it express your love to God and your appreciation for how He designed you, but it also expresses your love for others. And there are many other areas of service, and I'm not trying to look over or past anybody. I don't have time to hide them all. I should have gotten going a long time ago. We got meals when people are sick, or there's a death in the family, or there's a surgery coming up. People that just show up and feed people or help them out with household tasks. This is what it means to be part of a community. This is what it means to serve. And this is what it looks like to authentically love one another as Christ commanded us. Now, our goal is that every person who walks in these doors will know first and foremost that they are loved by God. And secondly, that they're loved by us. And these are just some of the ways that we go about doing that. And why does it matter so much? We get to the verse 35. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. This is the way that people will identify that you're a follower of Jesus. By the way you love one another. Which means, this is uncommon. If it was normal, then it wouldn't stick out. If it was normal, people wouldn't be able to look at it and say, oh, there's something different about that person. The only way this is possible is if this is uncommon. But Jesus says, this is it. This is the proof that people are going to see. They're going to see that you follow me, and they're going to recognize that because of the way that you love one another. And Simon Peter said to him, Lord, where are you going? And Jesus answered him, where I am going, you cannot follow me now, but you will follow afterward. And Peter said to him, Lord, why can I not follow you now? I will lay down my life for you. And Jesus answered, will you lay down your life for me? Truly, truly, I say to you, the rooster will not crow till you have denied me 3 times. Peter, Lord, where are you going? You're not going alone. I'm your ride or die. I'm going with you. And I'll even go to the point, Jesus, that I would die for you. And Jesus tells Peter, Peter, hours from now, you're going to deny me. It isn't going to be once. It isn't going to be twice. you're going to deny me 3 times. What I find fascinating is out of all 11 disciples who remained after Judas left, it's this one. It's Peter. The one who would deny Jesus mere hours from that statement of, I will go and I will die for you. That Jesus would use to establish his church. After the resurrection, Jesus would go to Peter and he would ask him, Peter, do you love me? And Peter said, yes. And he said, Peter, do you love me? And Peter said, Lord, do you know me? And he asked him 3 times. This wasn't passive aggressive. But Jesus restored Peter and used him to develop and start the church that we in all true churches to this day are an extension of. That Jesus would say that the church is the bride of Christ. And if we are the bride of Christ, then we need to make sure that we're aligned with Christ. We have the opportunity all the time to help out people. One of the things we frequently see are couples who find themselves in a spot where they love one another but don't like each other. And what happens is as life happens, you realize, hey, life's kind of challenging. And then you put on committing to somebody else to spend the rest of your life with them and to live life together, and then you throw kids on it's all kinds of challenging. And what we see all the time happen is the husband or the wife starts aiming for one goal, and the husband or the wife, they start aiming at another goal. And there's misalignment. And every time there's misalignment, there's trouble. Because when you aren't aiming at the same goal, there's always going to be tension. We are the bride of Christ, which means it is absolutely imperative for us to be passionate about the same things that Jesus was and is passionate about. And he's the God of second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth chances. And he is the God of grace. And he is the God of love and restoration and forgiveness. And if we're really going to function as we should function, it's not enough for us to preach those things if we don't also practice them. May we strive to take our lead always from Christ. And may we be passionate about the things he was passionate. And may it show in how we love one another and serve those God allows us to interact with. God, I pray that you would help us. That we would be known by our love for one another. Lord, give us a passion and a desire to use the gifts and abilities that you have entrusted us. That we would serve you and serve others. I pray that it would never be true that we would just preach this. I pray it would always be true that we preach it and practice it. Give us an accurate understanding of what grace looks like. Not a license to live like hell. Not a main ingredient, but dependent upon things that we ourselves can achieve. But a total dependence on you and your gift. And impact. It changes us to the core. May all who walk in this place know first and foremost that they are loved by you. And secondly, by us. May you be